We begin today on Kash and Bongino, who are not willing to just say, take things rolling over. They're coming back and they're basically making it very, very clear. Comey, you're not off the hook. In fact, a lot of you guys are not off the hook. Here's the article first in Newsweek. Kash Patel reveals FBI DOJ executing multiple options against one James Comey. How do you like that? So what does that mean, right? Because you know, guys, I have been super frustrated because I look at Pam Bondi and what went down there, and I know that they're talking about going back for appeals, but I'm sorry, I don't think that there's going to be a lot of room there with the appeal front. I mean, I've looked at the law, and I'd like to sit here and tell you, hey, she can appeal all day and it's going to work. She can with Letitia James, maybe. I mean, I would just actually go back and start over and say, hey, we're going to get indictment number 2. And they're working on that. But basically, Kash came out. He did an interview with the Epic Times and said they're looking at everything. And this is really freaking people out. In other words, the judicial process, it can do whatever it wants. And yes, you know, the appeal thing is underway, but we've got other avenues to explore. What does he mean by that? He's like, okay, wait until after Thanksgiving. I have a little bit of a clue about what that means, and I want to share it with you. But let's first go to that interview that he just did with Epic Times, where he basically makes it very, very clear they are not done. And this is why people are freaking out right now.
A criminal case against Director Comey was recently dismissed. What is your reaction to that?
Well, because it's pending in terms of appellate status and what we are going to do for the next steps, the judicial process can make whatever determination it wants, but we, the FBI, and our partners at the DOJ have numerous options to proceed, and we're executing on all those options. So we're not done.
Any detail available?
I would say stay tuned for right after Thanksgiving, and you'll see multiple responses, in my opinion.
Okay, so what does that mean? What does that mean? Well, I think the appeal is going to be really challenging, right? So I think it's going to mean other things. We're talking Arctic frost type things. We're talking about those burn bags. Remember they talked about that one before? Well, here's another one. He's saying that he wants all those burn bags to be made public. So apparently, and he went on, and Dan Bongino actually went on to Fox in the morning and said that they had found this room that people told them about, where there was just all this locked up stuff. So it's not like literally bags and bags worth of files, but rather computer files, right? That they were able to find. And a lot of this got into the so-called Arctic frost investigation that we've told you about here, and that it has come out bit by bit. Tulsi Gabbard, by the way, has also done a lot on everything, going all the way back to 2016. So there's more there, and I think they're looking for more stuff that they might be able to pin on Comey. I mean, you had all those handwritten notes. This might have been part of the burn bags type stuff. What can they do with that? What can they do with that, right? Because the darn statute of limitations. Thank you very much, Pam. We had handwritten notes where he was talking about, you know, the confidence in the system could potentially be undermined, it seems, or Kerry, you know, he could talk about Trump and his financial ties to Moscow, of which there were none, mind you, of which there were none. This was all part of the play back in 2016 with the dirty dossier and all that stuff. But here's what I would say. You know what they do have, and you know what is important to look at, and whether or not they can get Comey in this. I'm going to be honest, I really don't like that statute of limitations, and I'm sorry, you know, Pam's a wonderful woman, but she may not be the best at running the DOJ, because to me, you don't miss the deadlines. To me, when you have a statute of limitations that was due to expire on September 30th, 2025, and you got a guy, Eric Siebert, in there who got put in on January 21st, 2025, and wasn't doing squat, all while you had Comey's son-in-law, by the way, working in the darn office. What the heck? You got a big giant mole in the place, and you didn't know that, Pam? Now, Don Baca, to his credit, because I'm watching the chat in real time, pointed out the other day, hey, you know what? Pam didn't get there till February. Okay, fine. So what? So she didn't pick Eric, and she didn't, you know, watch over him from the very, very beginning there in the Northern or Eastern Virginia office, but she should have at some point recognized that this was going nowhere. And by the way, Comey's son was in the office. Like, how does nobody figure that one out? If the president is telling you, I'd really like to get an indictment for Comey, and I think that we have enough. And by the way, it's not just the president. It's Ted Cruz. It's a bunch of people, Rand Paul, that are like, the guy lied under air in 2017 under oath, on air, I should say on air. Yeah, he literally might have been on some air. Anyway, they had all that, And it's all gone nowhere. But here's the difference now. You've got the FBI saying, we're not going anywhere. And by the way, this is really bugging them at this particular moment in time. And when I say them, I mean the so-called deep state. I mean any, people that were aligned with Comey. I mean any people that were aligned with Biden at the FBI. Some of them have been fired, but under concerns and allegations that they were doing things that were improper related to this Arctic frost investigation. But they're really worried. They're worried it's all going to come out right now. So you know what they're trying to do? They're trying to go after these guys. They're trying to go after Kash with their so-called dossier on Kash Patel. Apparently, when he got off the plane after poor Charlie Kirk, I mean, that's just, I'm still not, it is so raw still. Poor Charlie Kirk was killed and he got off the plane. Apparently didn't have an FBI jacket. And they're putting out these reports now about how he insisted on having a jacket, this, that, and the other, because he was concerned about the optics of it. Listen, I mean, optics do matter. I don't know if in fact he threw a fit about that or not, that they didn't have a jacket for him. But I think out of respect to his friend, like you don't want to get off, in your hoodie. Okay. Like, if he didn't have a suit on, he flew straight there. And that was my understanding. He and Dan went straight there as soon as it happened. He, out of respect, yes, for his friend, may not have wanted to walk off the plane in a freaking hoodie, if that's in fact what the case is. But now they're making this whole thing about it with their Kash dossier because they're trying to take him down before he does that to them. Well, you know what? You don't have to look very far. Go back to what Chuck Grassley was saying on this Arctic frost stuff just about 6 weeks ago.
I've recently been informed by Verizon that at least 11 members with Verizon accounts were affected. That includes a hard line for Senator Cruz's office and a staffer's cell phone for former Senator Loeffler. AT&T informed me they challenged the legal basis for Jack Smith's efforts, and Smith backed down.
Okay. So that's the Jack Smith thing. That's the Arctic frost. Whether or not that is directly tied to Comey, maybe we'll see in due time. But I will say this, it was bad and they didn't have the right kind of orders. And we've gone through this before, right? I've told you about how telecom companies need these various orders. And even if they do have the orders, the cell phone companies don't have to comply if they think that they were illegal. But this is, Jack Smith, and this is Arctic frost. And now all of this is potentially coming out as Kash says, hey, we have other avenues to pursue Comey through. And we have other people, by the way, that we're going to continue pursuing. Brennan, I'm looking at you, right? I mean, there's a lot more. Jack Smith, I'm looking at you. So they had that J6 probe. It's almost hard to keep track of these things. I mean, whether you're talking about the impeachment after impeachment after impeachment that we had to go through because of the Ukraine call, et cetera. Because of, the Russian dossier, first time around we were dealing with that scandal. I mean, it's like one after another. And the media has lied and lied and lied throughout, which Donald Trump is pointing out. And then they freak out and they want to attack him because they're like, how dare you? How dare you go after us? Well, I'll tell you, this is going to be a big deal. And whether Comey's connected to it at this point, I don't know. But I think we're hearing and seeing a lot of breadcrumbs getting dripped out there. Yeah, okay, so maybe Pam can't bring this case on appeal. I'm sorry. Go watch Wednesday's show. You see me just implode on that thing because I'm so annoyed about it. And the statute of limitations that was effectively missed, if you would. I mean, they gave Lindsay, 8 days to bring charges? And that was just a disaster. And look, I'm sorry, under the law, it doesn't look like she could. She doesn't look like she was authorized because they needed to get the judges to sign off on the new appointment when they decided to get rid of Eric. Well, Eric hung on for dear life as long as they could, I guess whispering sweet nothings into their ears so that he could keep the gig long enough so that they would have no room to turn. I mean, after all, I'd have to assume he's buddies with Comey's son-in-law who's working in the same place. I don't know how this stuff happens, frankly. Who's doing the vetting? Please. Anyway, Ted Cruz, he's saying this is worse than Watergate. And I think it is. And I think this is what they're worried about coming out right now.
Is Joe Biden's Watergate. Merrick Garland was a fundamentally corrupt attorney general. Jack Smith was a fundamentally corrupt prosecutor. This was a political enemies list from the beginning. 197 subpoenas for 430 Republican entities and individuals. That is an absolute and egregious abuse of power.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, not to mention the guy that was starting the investigation, that was offering up to Jack Smith, was basically the one who was also okaying it. He started it and he okayed it, which, by the way, is a violation of what the FBI calls its no self-approval rule 3523. So what the heck was really going on? This is what's going to come out. And so now they don't know what to do except to attack Kash and to attack Dan. That's all they got. Right? Because he's just dangled this threat out there. They're like, whew, we got through. No, issue with Comey. We got through the statute of limitations. Letitia, I'm sorry, they're coming back at you. You're not going to be able to wiggle your way out of that one. You're not. And Comey, I don't know, because I don't know what else is there. I don't know what the burn bags are filled with. But if you're coming up in the burn bags, yeah, I imagine you're a little worried about that one. I don't think it's over. I don't think it's over even for Brennan. Right? Brennan, who's trying to say in his holier than thou voice, I don't even do evidence. I just do intelligence.
Did you find direct evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and Putin in Moscow while you were there?
Mr. Rooney, I never was an FBI agent. I never was a prosecutor, so I really don't do evidence. I do intelligence throughout the course of my career.
Because who cares about evidence? No. We just need a viewpoint. We just need some color on the situation, a little intel that we can use to our advantage. My gosh, I mean, maybe in the past they weren't supposed to, but with Trump, all bets were off. They weaponized the intelligence department. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know how else to tell you that. I mean, you're not foolish. You know what happened with the Hunter Biden laptop. You know that they sat there and lied through their teeth, 51X spooks and spies. I mean, I was even at the time like, wait a second. How am I supposed to interpret this? Is this really just misinformation being fed to us courtesy of the Russians and Rudy Giuliani? How do I interpret this? I'm a pretty straight shooter, right? They tried to basically play mind games with everyone, and I'm done with it. I'm over it, and it can't ever happen again. It just can't. And Kash knows that, and Dan knows that, and they're out there trying to do the right thing. Brennan, I'm sorry, you're in trouble too, buddy. So this is why you're seeing this mutiny go on right now. This is why you're seeing the dossiers emerging on Kash Patel as they try and go after him for, having a country singing girlfriend. I mean, who, by the way, is seeing her life in danger, and God forbid anybody actually protect her. Somehow that's not allowed. Because it's Kash, because it's Trump. You understand where we're going here with this? Anyway, you know what, Brennan, you're not out of the woods yet. I think he's right. Comey, you're not out of the woods yet. The whole kit and caboodle of you. Here we go.
Your thoughts on Mr. Higher Honor, Jim Jordan?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's not the only one, Sean. I mean, we just referred John Brennan 3 weeks ago because we believe he definitely lied to Congress when he told us that he wasn't involved with the dossier and didn't want it included in the intelligence community assessment. Only problem is, Tulsi Gabbard declassified and released a report from the House Intelligence Committee, which said just the opposite, said he was involved, did want it in. In fact, he was approached by a CIA official who said, Mr. Brennan, this dossier doesn't hold up. We shouldn't include it. Brennan's response was, yeah, but doesn't it ring true? Showing his motivation, his motive was to just go after President Trump, even though the evidence wasn't there.
And we know that, right? And again, I don't know where we're going to go with Comey, given the stupid statute of limitations, given we know everything, given, yes, it certainly looks as though he perjured himself under oath. And yet, September 30th, 2025 was the end of the statute of limitations. And it wasn't until, September 22nd that we actually saw Lindsay Halligan get appointed. She had just a few days to pull this thing off, all while, technically speaking, it's technically not the right way to have appointed someone. And I'm sorry, but I'm looking at you, Pam, because those technicalities, they matter. They actually do matter in law and in a court of law. And even if we know somebody's guilty of sin, if the technicalities are all screwed up, your whole case is screwed up. So I'm going to go back to what Kash is saying. He's looking for other ways because, the law is one thing, okay, and The law is the law. Okay, don't get me wrong. But to his point, the judiciary is the judiciary. And then he said, DOJ and FBI, we're going to go back at it ourselves. Whether that means appeal, whether that means something else, I'd be looking through the burn bags to see if he comes up again. I'd also be looking at bringing him in if I were, say, on the House Intel Committee, or if I was on, the Commerce Committee, and I'd say, hey, you know what? We need you back in the seat. Now, he may choose the fifth because he doesn't want to perjure himself. I don't know. Maybe he figured I've already played that game and it almost wound me up in jail. But I would say there are more ways to skin the cat in this case. And that's what they're realizing. Okay, so that's what they're realizing. And so the loyalists are panicking. The loyalists are issuing the Kash dossier. The dossier that says, oh, Kash was concerned about how he appeared when he took that plane to go investigate in Utah after his friend, Charlie Kirk, was gunned down. I'm sure he did care because he knew that picture would be everywhere. But they take something and they make it into something else entirely. As though he's like a beauty queen and doesn't want to get off the plane until this, that, and the other. No. He just, out of respect for his friend, and this is if it's true, and that's a big if, okay? I would think, out of respect for your friend, you don't want to be in the sort of, hoodie, okay? Like you don't take it seriously. You want the FBI on the ground. And that means you got to be in a suit and tie, or you got to be in your FBI gear. And he knew that picture would go everywhere, but they're taking this and they're trying to make this into something to say, oh, he's not serious about his job. They've got all kinds of nicknames, ridiculous nicknames for him. You understand this is an orchestrated attempt to now take down the head of the FBI, and you got to ask yourself why. I know why. It's because they know that he's got some more there. They're afraid of Arctic frost. They don't want this coming out. And so they figure, can we polish him off before he gets to this? Oh, and while we're at it, we'll take out his deputy, Dan Bongino, one of my former colleagues at Fox, one of the greatest people, I'm just going to tell you, in this business, all right? There's not a lot, I can count them on one hand. Not a lot of great people in this business, and a lot of people will lie to you. Dan's not that kind of guy. And by the way, he didn't need this job. We've talked about this before. He had a very successful show. Heck, I miss him on his show. I really do. He had a fantastic podcast. And now he's there taking all kinds of slings, all kinds of mud from everyone that gets a chance to throw it at him. And they're worried about him. And so they recently tried to attack him with emails that, by the way, he couldn't have been sending because he wasn't even in the gig at the time. They're worried because he made this prediction. Remember a couple of months ago? And I told you, listen to this, like bookmark it, because he's not kidding. Dan Bongino, I'm telling you, like it doesn't matter who you know, Comey. It doesn't matter that your son-in-law was in the office. They're going to find you.
Let me ask you about, are you going to be looking into, Kash and Pam, any potential collusion between the DOJ, Letitia James, the novel legal theory of Alvin Bragg or Nathan Wade or Fani Willis and the DOJ? Is that something? Has anything come up? Is there any way to determine whether or not evidence was destroyed in any of these cases?
Well, there's always a way to determine that. I don't want to comment on that specific case right now for a reason. I don't want to get ahead of the Department of Justice on that. But I want to say this. The FBI obviously has the public corruption portfolio. And yes, if you are a corrupt politician out there, if you are engaged in behavior, you know what you're doing, we're going to find you. I promise. No one is going to get off. The days of selecting and putting your partisan bias on and taking care of your friends, those days are over. You know what, Sean? I don't have any friends. I don't want any friends. Well, maybe outside of you and a couple of, I don't care. I didn't come here for the money. I didn't come here to make, I know.
No, you didn't go there for the money. I can tell people that for sure.
No, I didn't come here to make friends. I don't give a damn about friends. I don't have any friends. I don't want any friends. I got my wife, I got you, and I got a small crew of people. So I don't need any friends. But if you're
you want a friend in D.C., get a dog.
We're coming for you.
That'll help.
Yeah, exactly. You want a friend in D.C., right? Go get a Labradoodle like I have, because there are no friends in D.C. You've been doing this, 30 years? There are no friends here.
No, and he's not playing for friends, right? So now anybody that basically is working on the inside, covert ops, whatever you want to call them, right? That maybe was, trying to speed this Arctic frost thing up. They're now running scared. And so what did they do? They published a dossier about Kash, and then they put this little number out. They're saying newly released emails obtained through a FOIA request reveal that Dan Bongino was approached in March to help redact and censor the Epstein files. And he's like, no friggin' way. Hello, people. And this is kind of a lame one because you see, he actually hadn't even started the gig. So he wrote on, this is just, within the last 24 hours or so. Here we go. This was, today's December 1, and this was just yesterday. He's writing there, folks, I entered my duty on March 17th. Okay, this is Dan Bongino writing on Twitter, and he's doing this from his FBI account. So FBI D Bongino, if you want to actually follow that. He said, look, I started this on March 17th. The emails in the chain you see forwarded to me at my request, he writes, were sent below I even began my position. And I wanted to review what had done before I entered on duty. It was a priority to me that I knew what the heck was there and what was happening. And so that's why I looked at all of this. And so I just have to say, like, if you guys are going to try and find something, you might have to do better than, what somebody wears when they get off the plane or what somebody is emailing or asking to have emailed to them ahead of time. But think of what's going on here. Let me see if I can make this even bigger for you. Okay, so these are all these emails, and they're saying, okay, because he wanted to know information about what he was going to be taking on before he took it on. Somehow that is an indictment on him, that he was trying to cover something up. I would be shocked. And you know what? I'm not the only one who knows him. He's not the kind of person that would take that on, right? If he knew that he had to cover something up, it's just not what he would do. That's not sort of in his DNA. So I would just say, guys, you're going to have to do better, okay? I get it. You're trying to take down two of these people in the here and now. And I just don't think it's going to happen. They are competent, and they're going to keep going back, and they're going to keep trying to do their jobs day in and day out, despite the noise, despite what you're trying to do. And we know what you're trying to do.